Hi, I'm Captain Mike, and this is the Egyptian Faience, I think. What we're going to talk today about is a process called Faience. I think I pronounced that right. I'm not real sure. My wife keeps trying to correct me, but you guys can see right here how it is spelled, the phonetic pronunciation, and what is commonly called in some circles as Egyptian paste. And I did get it right after a long process, and so far this is the only piece that I have that came out like I thought it should. Didn't show very good, did it? Let me just drop it right there for the time being. This is a process where the colorant or the glaze is all the way through it. And if you get online and you pull it up, especially with Wikipedia, it's going to talk about using it as a glaze and not as a colored body. Everybody's used this. Rather than me go through all of this in this video, I'll just put a link below and you can do all the research. I'm just going to show you my journey. So this is the first and only one that I have gotten where that I was halfway satisfied with. But from this, let me kind of give you an idea. The ingredients that we'll be talking about and what they are commonly called are soda Feldspar, which is Custers Feldspar, Flint, which is nothing but silica, and some ball clay, also known as OM4, number 4, but I think you could use any kind of clay. It doesn't really matter. It's dry clay, powdered clay. Soda ash, which is nothing but Arm & Hammer super washing soda, and sodium bicarbonate, which is a similar product known as baking soda. Whiting is nothing but calcium carbonate. I think it's lime, I'm not sure. But you can look all of this up. And then the colorants, you can either use copper carbonate or cobalt carbonate, which makes it either kind of greenish or bluish, and maybe somewhere in between greenish and bluish. And I'm sure there's some other colors that I will experiment with in the future. But that is the ingredients that we're going to work with today. And this is just a bunch of stuff that I experimented with because I didn't have the proper ingredients. I had most of them. I had silica and I had some ball clay and I had all kinds of stuff like that. But I didn't have exact formulas or even close. So I just started messing around mainly in the microwave kiln. Let me pull this out here a little better. I'm not watching what I'm doing. So these are the first ones that I got using a lot of cobalt carbonate, and it just come out all kinds of crazy ways. Nothing glossed, okay, nothing glossed. And that was the first experiments that I did while I was waiting for my materials to come in. And as you can see, depending on how much ingredients and how I played with the ingredients, I could get anything from a porous, very light color to a more solid, darker cobalt, and everything in between. Some of these were done in the microwave kiln, some of them were done in the regular kiln up to cone 06, and you can see, I mean, nothing was consistent. Of course, my ingredients were consistent. I was just having a ball. Some of them totally, completely melted into little globs, which meant it got way too hot for that particular mixture. So that was my first experience, and I fooled with that for about a week to 10 days until my stuff got here, and I was beginning to wonder whether this was going to work at all. So that's where I was on that. Then my goodies come in, my whiting and a couple of other things that would work instead of just me piddling around, and here's what I come up with. And again, there were some differences. Now these two were done in a microwave kiln, and the rest of these right here were done in an oven, in a kiln. And you can see these right here were fired in the kiln. The bottom's blue, top is white. Don't ask me why. And this one started just a little bit to get some color here. At the time, I didn't know what you had to do to get the color. And so I was, again, experimenting. There's not a lot of information. Seems like people want to be chintzy with some of the details you really need to know to do this. But I'm going to tell you, the next bunch was the same. It was done, and all of these were done in cone 6 in the kiln. And the difference between the first ones I showed you was this was poured real thin. And I'll explain that to you a little later. It was more like a paste, and I poured it in. You could literally pour it. I poured it in the molds. These right here were more like dough, and you could push it in the molds. And they're kind of crumbly. Once you let them sit overnight and you pop them out of your silicone mold, and you're going to have to use a silicone mold or a very flexible plastic mold. But once you pop them out, you have to be very careful with them. They'll just, the edges will break off, you know, and you'll see more of that later. But these were fired in the kiln, and again, I don't know what happened. It's not necessarily my kiln, because it's just maybe the difference in what little, because I'm making this stuff at 5 ounces at a time, okay? So I could have goofed up just a little bit between this batch and this batch. But it is beginning to get there, as you can see. But look at that. It is white on the bottom. Somehow it doesn't look to me like the heat transfer was proper, because if this stuff works the way I understood it to work, it's a solid medium. It works all the way through. Solid. See how that one kind of getting there, but it's there. Now back to this one, which worked when I used everything properly, and we'll get to this in a minute. It's all the way through. The white you see on the edges is just part of the shelf preparation that stuck to it, and I didn't bother to get it off. Now, that's where I stood on my journey. And this was the first one that I was successful with. I have got some other stuff prepped here that I will explain some very particular things to you about. It was just some white bisque that I had, and I just tried to smear the paste on it as a glaze each time. It come out not so good. As you can see, some of these were done in the microwave, some of them were done in the kiln. Different mixtures, okay, different temperatures and stuff. So that was with a paste. I just gave up on that because I have plenty of blue glazes if I want to use it. There's no advantage other than to say I did it that way. So start with the first molds I tried to use was these molds that were stiff. I couldn't even get the glaze out of it, or the paste, what do you want to call it. You can see how it cracked up. That was a no-go. The next molds that I used were these silicone molds, and they work real good because they're very flexible, and you can pour them in. The pouring will work, but the mashing seems to dry quicker. This one is some kind of rubber. It might be silicone, but it works good too. And the last is this plastic that I bought because I couldn't find enough Egyptian-themed molds, and so I said, hey, that looked good. Let me try it. It makes a nice little mummy. Okay, let's see if we can kind of get somewhere with this rambling experiment. I can't say it's been fun. It's been one of the most frustrating journeys I've taken in quite a while, but interesting enough in its own way. The batch that we're going to mix up today is what has been most successful to me so far. And without running it off on the fancy printer, here's what we're going with. Silica, baking soda, clay, Custers Feldspar, soda ash, and some copper carbonate. And the numbers to the left are all multiplied times 5, and that will give me 5 ounces, or the equivalent in grams if you want to do the math, of material. And you'll see how much that covers. as with a lot of experiments, small batches have a tendency to have a different outcome than if you mixed a lot of stuff. But then you don't want to blow $20 worth of material, end up with 5 pounds of something that doesn't work. So my suggestion is go small, use your head, see what you got, what you like, you go from there. Hey, but you do it. You do it however you want to do it, not what Captain Mike says, because he's just kind of an old man that just kind of rambles on. Now, what we're going to do is, you see, I got all these little neat plastic cups, and I put the ingredients on them. And I used a scale to measure them out after I took the tare for the cup. You guys know what tare is, don't you? It's always on that little button there. Put your cup on it, turn it on, or mash that button. It'll go back to 0. That's tare. Then you can add your ingredients per whatever this is. Now, the better scale you have, the better off you're going to be. This one will not do in anything other than even grams. And that's kind of tough, so you're going to have to look at what you've got here, like 38.2725 grams, and decide whether you want to average it up or average it down. I don't think it's going to make a lot of difference. If it's usually below 5, I go with the first number. If it's above 5 or even on 5, I make it the next biggest number, and I go, regardless of what kind of chemistry I'm doing, just not making an atomic bomb. So that should work just fine for you. So the better scales you have, the better off you are. These I just picked up for almost nothing at a discount store, so I'm using them because they're easy to use. But you will need the scales. Now, I've already done the weighing out for you here in these little things. I mix it with one of these. You mix it as you see fit. I put the water that I'm going to add in a little, kind of one of these little hypodermic things, because I can control it a lot better. And of course, I get me a container to put it all in, okay? Because you're going to shake this up. So let's get down to business here and see what we can do. And it's just as simple as this. We're going to put, it doesn't matter what order you put them in. You just kind of dump them in, just like that. And I'll forewarn you, when you start measuring these things out and all, don't have anything else going on. I can't tell you how many times I have mismeasured. And especially when you're dealing with grams and ounces like I do back and forth, because I'm in the U.S. and I do mostly ounces, but sometimes it's easier to do grams and small amounts. And I'll flip-flop them and I'll mess things up. So keep your wits about you and double check everything you do. You know, of course, if you mess it up, you might get an interesting result. I don't know, but here's what you got. Okay, put the top back on it, nice and tight. Now, you should use a mask when you're doing the powders. Okay, have some kind of breathing protection on, and I don't, because you can't do a video with a mask on. But you know, use one. Gloves, suit yourself. Nice set of surgical gloves will not hurt anything. Start to shake. Now, it is important that you shake it up very well, because if you don't get the carbon, the cobalt or the copper, man, I'm having a hard time. The carbonates mixed in properly, you'll have hot spots. In other words, you'll have a little spot of color that is darker than the surrounding area. So you just kind of mix it as long as it takes. I'm going to mix this for a while. Okay, it looks like it has mixed pretty thoroughly. Take the top off. And you might want to just kind of go through it and look and see if you see some little greenish or bluish globs in there. If nothing has gotten damp, it should just mix up perfectly well. But it only takes a few minutes to shake it up. Now, once you've got that done, this is a tricky part right here. I told you that you can use this as a paste, or you can use it as a kind of like dough, like a modeling clay. You could also mix it thin enough if you wanted to use it for a glaze. According to Wikipedia and some of those, they did that. experiment with all that. But today we're going to make kind of a dough so we can kind of knead it in our hands and push it down in here. And I start off by putting just a little bit of water in. You never know exactly how much, so don't get carried away and start stirring. And you know, you just kind of keep on, it'll clump up with you. Get the clumps broke up, because this will get away from you in a heartbeat. And probably because I'm trying to get to a video and I'm in a hurry, because we don't like to make really long videos, I'll probably screw it up. But it's nothing that we can't fix, because we get this stuff done and in the mold, regardless of whether it's a paste or it's a dough or what it is. We're going to have to let it dry overnight, and then we're going to have to put it in the kiln. So we're not going to be able to finish this video in one go. Wish could, but can't. Now, one of the things I mentioned while I'm doing this is all those measurements were times 5 right here, so that I end up with 5 ounces. Okay, I think I've got it exactly where I need it. Now remember, this is not the rocket science part of this. If you get it too soupy, like I said, pour it in the mold and just wait for it to cool, dehydrate. More water, longer time before it comes out of the mold. Standard procedure. Too dry and it won't work. It'll crumble up. But this here, you know, once it gets about this consistency and it slicks off with your palette knife or whatever, you can figure that's just about like clay. Now, I don't know quite how far this is going to go. I think it's going to fill up one of these, and we'll fill up some other stuff. So what I do, just to check, is I'll take me some, like this, and I'll make a little ball. You see, if it'll do that, it's malleable enough to work. So then, I'll start with the middle one here. I just put it in, and I start to press. You want to get it down into all the details. And so you'll just kind of push it in, you know, while it's thin. Keep it going down like that. I'm sorry about my dog. Roxy's playing with the cat, and she gets kind of carried away when I'm not there to pay attention to her. Her and BC are having a good time over there. All right, and you just keep on filling it like that and mashing it, and till you get it where you want it. It just takes a while. The good thing about these plastic molds like this is you can kind of see where you are on the bottom. And I've only done one of these little mummies in this plastic mold, and it demolded just fine. We're going to find out if I was lucky or what. Now you just keep on adding it a little bit at a time until you get it where you want it. I like to get it just a little bit higher than the mold. And then I like to tap the mold, and it does a neat little thing that it starts to liquefy it again. Just kind of like that, and you can see how it's glossing off. And it's called being thixotropic, or some fancy word like that, where you have something that's stiff and it doesn't look like it's going to be palatable or pliable, and then the more you stir it, the thinner it gets to a point. Okay, now that's what we got right there. And then you can go in here and you can see where you might have some issues. And you can go back in there and mash them a little harder. There you go. And then once that's done, bump it some more. And you take more time than me, okay? I'm just kind of piddling around here, trying to get it done. All right, that's the mummy. And we got enough maybe to do a skull here. The same thing on the skull. You just kind of mash it in there and get it in there good. And this has been 5 ounces of this material, so you see how far it has gone. Now I haven't made my mind up yet as to about the thickness of the material and how that affects the cooking of it, you know, the glazing. I haven't done enough of it. It seems to me like the thicker stuff seems to do pretty good because it might hold the heat longer or better or something. You guys tell me. All right, we got one left here, and what we're going to do, we're going to put these little scarabs in here. How about that? And then we're going to be through until these can dry out and you can take them out. Again, you've got to mash them down. If you don't doing this, you won't get the detail. Let's see what we got left. I'm not going to do a little teeny tiny one because they don't ever come out real good. Oh, heck, why not, Mike? Do a teeny tiny one. Do a teeny tiny one. It's getting on late up in the afternoon here in Georgia, and my old body's saying, Mike, you need another nap. I don't like to argue with my body when it tells me I need to take a nap. So anyhow, we're getting there, folks. We're getting there. And these may not be as pretty as you want them to be, but you can do that. And heck, we got a little left. I never waste anything. You guys know that. I don't waste anything. So we're going to make these little Egyptian coins here, or one or two of them. I'm going to put all of the stuff that I've showed you in writing down below in the comments. But I have here, 4 recipes, and we use this number 2 recipe, and it differs from all the other 4 in that it has a higher concentrate of bicarbonate in it, of a soda, or a soda salt, or something like that. And I think that's the success. It also doesn't have any whiting in it. Whiting is being nothing but chalk or limestone, but some of them call for it. So that's what you do with those. And just let me show you kind of what we got here so that the next, when we come back, I can have them fired, okay? Ah, here they are. Okay. This is one made, I think, on one of the first ones. It has not been fired. But you notice now that it just looks like something that's cast right out of a mold. Okay? And it only has 0.6%, and that's ounce, of soda. And it doesn't have any the other soda ash in it. No soda ash. And I'm betting you it's going to come out similar to one of these. If I had to guess. But now let me tell you why I say that. I had seen some reference to what the salts and the soda should do. And according to some of the people, or one of the people, as this stuff dries, it's supposed to leach out a white powder-like stuff on the top. Okay? I've seen that happen on the side of concrete blocks. When water and moisture got in, it leached out the salts that was in the compound they had used to the concrete blocks. Can't tell you exactly what it is without getting online and researching it and writing it down. If you're interested in that, fine. But once you pop these things out of the mold and let them dry for a couple of days, they should develop this. Because this, I think, is going to be the secret to where the gloss comes from. So that's those. And I'm going to stick these with these in the kiln and fire them to 06 to see exactly what. But just for the young lady who got me started on this, and I'll try to think of her name and pull it up, she asked about doing it in the microwave. Folks, this one was done in the microwave, in my microwave kiln. So yes, you can do faience, or whatever you want to call it, in a microwave kiln. So that's it. I've hung y'all up on this video here longer than I really would have liked to, and you had to listen to my cracking old voice. But we've got that much done. And we're going to fire these, come back, and I'll wrap it all up with whatever else I can think of. Well, I took these pieces out of the kiln this morning, and as I told you earlier in this video, I fired these pieces to cone 06 on a regular, let's say, glaze schedule. And this is what we have. Now, for comparison, this one is the one that I did in the microwave using this recipe. And this recipe right here, you can't see it very well. I'll write all of this down for you. It was the nice shiny blue ones, and then this recipe right here is the two over on the right. The difference being that these have less soda. Either the soda ash or the baking soda, they have less of that in it. And they did not get all that whiskery stuff on them, if you remember me showing them to you. They basically just look like a blue clay object. These, on the other hand, had more fuzz on them than a bunny's butt. You know, they just really looked hairy. So this is what you get. Now, it seems like the more soda you put, and probably to a point, the better glaze you get. Glaze being the operative word, because even though the material is bluish overall, it is not the same glaze color all the way through, as you can see. Now, this has some surprises, and unfortunately, as I took it off of the shelf, it broke. And that's okay. It broke because I was rough with it. It stuck to the shelf. But as you can see inside here, it's just kind of a grayish color. This is a glaze over the top. Okay? Now, that's okay. That's fine. You know, if you wanted to get an object like this with a glaze on it, there's easier ways to do it. This is an experiment. I did not know what faience was, and I'm sure back when this was developed, they didn't have all the fancy glazes we have. And someone figured out how to get the blues. Blues are a very good color, and so they went for it. Now, this blue was made using copper carbonate. You'd think it would be green. And I'm sure if you used a lesser amount, it might be a more greenish. But that's what we've got. Now, I'm going to put all the written instructions I can in the comments below on this, and you all look at it, read it, get online, and experiment with it yourself. But this recipe that I call my number 2 recipe, or the number 2 recipe, it's not my recipe, seems to work just fine, and you can do what you want. You can even get some good examples and some good color out of the microwave kiln. Now, the only thing I'm going to add to this, and then I'm through, is as you mold this up from the dough-like, clay-like state you saw the other day where I wrinkled it around in my hands, it's crumbly. I've got one of these in the plastic mold now. I don't know when I'm going to get it out. It feels like it might break before I can get it out. But I'm going to experiment with adding more ball clay to see if I can't get some increased plasticity and make it more pliable. And hopefully it will be easier to work with, and it won't affect the glaze, because at this point the glaze color is what we're after. And you can tell them that a customer or a friend or someone who's curious, hey man, this is kind of close to what the Egyptians did when they did their funeral objects and stuff. Neat point of conversation. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. I think I've rambled on enough. I appreciate y'all sticking with me through this. I hope it helps. Always welcome to questions and comments. Just be adult. If it's something you don't like, be nice and tell me about it. I'll try to fix it. And if you have comments that will help me, I definitely need help. So there you go. That is my video on faience or Egyptian paste. So I'm Captain Mike, and I'm out of here.